Hi, Cancer Sun and Rising. Welcome to your September 2024 Astro Update. It's Raina here. So, um, I guess I'd say, in addition to everything else, the eclipse that's happening and a fellow water sign and all this other stuff that is happening, the equinox, um, Pluto going back into your opposite sign of Capricorn, you're having Mars go into your sign. This is the first time in almost 1.5 years. So that can make you quite energetic. I'll get to that in a minute. On the first of the month, Pluto goes back into Capricorn. So that's your seventh house of committed partnership. This is a general reading. So whether that is, the eighth house for you is Aquarius, but you might have some Aquarius in the seventh house. So Pluto might have never gotten as far as the eighth house. That's completely possible. So, but I'm just going to pretend that it did. So Pluto going back into the seventh house retrograding, it already was retrograde, is about if you've had power struggles in relationships over the past 16 years, and I think even healthy relationships sometimes can experience these, but I would say especially if it brings out the shadow side of things. These kinds of themes can cut quite deeply. And the bottom line is that I feel like this is going to be a time when you look at yourself and look at your place in the dance, okay? So let me give an example of how this could play out with an issue that is, I think, very commonplace that couples argue about, and they say is number one cause of arguing is money. Let's say that you and your partner have different attitudes towards money, and I think the average Cancer person is very fiscally conservative. Let's say you have more of a spendthrift type of partner, and that has always been an issue of control between the two of you. Now you look at that issue from the standpoint of yourself. How do you contribute to it? You might feel like you are in the right, and in some cases, everyone who you tell this story to might agree with you and say, yeah, that person is financially irresponsible. You're absolutely right about that. But the truth is that we all have different attitudes about issues such as money, or sometimes another issue that can be a problem between two people is if somebody has a perceived addiction. If they drink too much, for instance. And if you have dealt with that and you have tried to limit your partner's behavior, curtail it, I should say, you can find out how absolutely impossible it is. Sometimes it works very superficially, but ultimately you can't really stop somebody from doing what they want to do. They'll just do it surreptitiously. They'll just do it on the sly, in other words. And we don't want that. But we have to, but there is the truth also that you have the right to be in a relationship with somebody who doesn't abuse alcohol or other drugs, if that's what is important to you. Or if they do not, you have the right to be in a relationship with somebody who respects money, who doesn't waste money in the way that you see it. Obviously it's subjective on some level. What is waste? What is, appropriate use of money? But you have the right to determine that for yourself. And so the bottom line is that you have to go, if you don't feel that you're in a relationship with somebody who you're on the same page with, right? I mean, you either accept them as they are and what they're doing, or you go. You can't bitch about it and then stay, because that's kind of a fruitless activity. I mean, you can, it's a free country, but it's not going to get you very far. So that's what you're going to be focused on. What is your personal power within the context of a relationship? And how can you maintain that power? Uranus going retrograde in Taurus at this time on the 1st, that being your 11th house, that can be a situation where you are perhaps experiencing more stable finances. This is the house of gains. But this could be like when Uranus is in the 11th house, that technology features into how you gain profit. And yet it might be kind of like a push-pull where you try to, to stabilize things. So things might stabilize. Maybe you've had wild swings and now things are a little bit more stable, but you're looking at it from the internal perspective of how can you be free regardless of what is happening on the outside too. I think that's a big part of it, like not being controlled by it. On the 2nd of the month, we have a new moon at 11 degrees of Virgo. This falls in your 3rd house, which is ruled by Mercury. It's Gemini's domain in astrology. Virgo is also ruled by Mercury, so that is definitely a new moon that has a mercurial connection. And this could be, one of many things. Maybe you're starting a new website. Mercury is direct now, so you might feel like, okay, now I'm going to start that YouTube channel, start my blog, start this communication. Maybe you're starting a new teaching assignment. I always consider Cancer to be a teacher type of sign, or a new writing project. On the 4th, Mars goes into your sign. This can give you confidence. This can give you more physical energy, but it can also make you a bit more pushy, impatient, and even arrogant and combative if you are not careful. So make sure that you are on top of it. But it might be very good for working out, because the 1st house is the house of the self, and that includes the body. On the 9th, Mercury goes into Virgo and comes out of its shadow on the 12th. Okay, so we already talked about the new moon in this 3rd house. This is just kind of the Mercury retrograde that is now direct, has been direct for, over a week, but it's also coming out of its shadow. After it goes back into Mercury on the 9th, it comes out of its shadow on the 12th. So things get resolved in this area. Also, 3rd house can be a person's business and sales and things of that nature. So if you experienced any kind of slowdown, this should mean that things are coming back up to speed. On the 17th, we have a lunar eclipse at 25 degrees of Pisces. This is in your 9th house, which is the house of the higher mind. So this could definitely be a psychic download, and you're already a water sign, so you've got that going for you. This is a trine. This is trining your sun or ascendant, so it's very easily flowing to you. Neptune is engaged. Neptune is retrograding, but it's in conjunction with this eclipse, so it just heightens that psychic activity. When I'm thinking about this in terms of like what the 9th house represents, it represents long distance travel. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of you have traveled to a foreign country for spiritual purposes with Neptune in the ninth since like 2011, that was the main reason that you did so. So an ashram, a temple, that kind of thing, an old church that really speaks to you about your faith, and you, like going to the horse's mouth, so to speak. So if you're Christian or Jewish, but you've never been to Israel, for instance, or if you are into yoga, going to India, maybe even, studying there in some cases, but definitely for spiritual reasons. Well, that I shouldn't say definitely, because there could be other reasons as well, but that's a big one because Neptune is here and there's a real sense of idealism. But Neptune is retrograde, so it's really seeing things for how they are. So it could be like a big reveal, like with Neptune in the ninth house, a transing Neptune, as well as somebody has it in their natal ninth house, of course, too. But there can be this risk of some sort of religious organization that turns out to be, like a cult. Neptune can be deception, it can be delusion. And you realize that this belief system or this organization is not on the up and up. And it can be very disillusioning because it can just be this massive influx of information or an uncovering. Because even like a regular full moon, that can bring out secrets. And so this could be like times three of that. And if something like this occurs, and of course you can't know before the fact, but if you have been involved in the last 13 years with some kind of a group, and maybe you started to get a little bit of, some questions have started to arise, there might be something that really just finally seals the deal for you. And the trick is not to become disillusioned altogether, simply because something didn't pan out the way that you had hoped it would. Sometimes the teaching is sound, but the human beings who are connected to it are very fallible. Um, and I think sometimes people forget that. But sometimes the teachings are to, ninth house can be um, organized religion. Neptune transing there can mean that it's more of a mystical thing. It's not the same old, same old. It could be that, but it could simply be also that you get under somebody's spell. You're under somebody's spell. But to me, it's more of the organized religions, and they're more structured and they have more dogma. And that's where things get a little bit tricky, because if there are too many do's and don'ts, it's easy for human beings to fall short of what it's supposed to be. And then hypocrisy can take over. And then that creates this sense of not living up to the ideals. And, it's kind of like, it's a bit messy, but it doesn't mean that the actual belief system is, 100% false or not good. It's just that we have to be realistic and kind to ourselves about what it is that we follow, and not expect too much from ourselves, especially when we're first starting out with something. We grow into, things. On the 22nd, the sun goes into Libra. This is the equinox. And again, this is your, well, I said again, but I actually didn't have anything here. This is your 10th house of career. So your career could be very high powered, because you're going to have a solar eclipse here on October 2nd, but you might even be experiencing those new beginnings on steroids in September. So the sun being here is definitely indicative of career matters. And on the same day as that, Venus goes into Scorpio. So Venus goes into your fifth house of romance and creativity. This can be a very romantic time, and it may not even get heated up until the new moon in November. It might just be kind of like you're friendly with someone, but you really like them. This could be involvement in the arts in a big way, whether you're creating them or appreciating them. And on the 26th, Mercury goes into Libra. So Mercury goes into that 10th house. Okay, I'm sorry. I've been doing a bunch of readings in a row, and I was confused about the sun. When the sun goes into Libra, that's not your 10th house, that's your 4th house of home and family, Cancer, and yes, and then Venus goes into the next sign, into Scorpio, and that is your 5th house of love and creativity. So Mercury going into this 4th house can be, and this is where you're going to have the eclipse. You're going to have the eclipse in the 4th house. And so, yeah, I mean, there could very well be something where you are experiencing opportunities when it comes to real estate. This is the house that you rule in astrology. So you have a particular affinity with this area. But yeah, and even in September, this may come to pass where, Mercury's here. Sign a document that's connected to real estate for some reason. And you did have Venus in the 4th house, so perhaps you received money from your mom, and that's what you're able to use to put down for real estate. So if that's something that you want, I certainly wish it for you, Cancer. And that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a personal reading, I have some package deals, and I have readings, pertaining to the transits, to natal chart interpretation, love, career matters. You can find out more information at the link below. Thanks for listening. Bye.